how they produce the web, Justin. It's a very complicated process that happens inside the body. The silk is basically a complex protein, and that is synthesized in a specialized organ within the spinnerets. There will be a whole lot of enzymes and a whole lot of chemicals that are attached to each other, or amino acids that attach to each other using enzymes and using RNA, which is a sort of not subatomic, but it's a very complicated molecule, a bit like DNA, inside the cells there, and those will code specifically for the proteins that make silk, which is a very, very complicated process. Now, Byron, I'm going to have to compliment, unfortunately, which really hurts my heart to do that, but he's managed to find one of the most invisible creatures in all the world.
We have indeed. Look at this beautiful chameleon. Look at that. And this is a big flap-neck chameleon, and it is always wonderful to see them during the day. But this is huge. Just to give you an idea, I don't want to chase him now. I think if I put my hand close to him, he'll probably move. I'll show you how big it is shortly, but he is a very, very big flap-neck chameleon moving up this tree, and wonderful. I mean, you can see those pads and the claws. They've actually got little claws, help them grip, obviously. And that prehensile tail, have a look at the back here. Beautiful prehensile tail, which means it's able to use it to grasp onto things, use it as an additional limb, hold onto the branches, it can curl it around there, and then those eyes which move around independently. This is a fascinating little creature. And off it goes, but it's obviously very successful because it's so big. And look how it moves. You see that staggering motion? They do that so that they blend in slightly with the branches, the movement of the branches. It's all to try and evade predators. That is wonderful. There he goes. And also what they do is they sit on the edge of these branches like that, so that if a snake or something comes, they can often pick up on the vibrations. And these chameleons, what I have seen and heard of them doing is they'll almost leap off the branches, maybe to some other branch will drop out of the tree to get away from a predator like that. But it's well camouflaged there. I don't think anything will see it. It looks completely safe up there. And as I said, it's a large chameleon. That chameleon, full length, with its tail, is probably about that long. Now that body was about that big. Now that's very large for a flap-neck chameleon. So that was really special. So from this ground lion to Jamie's lion.
Well, I have to say, I really feel as though Byron has got a certain gift for finding little ground lions, or chameleons. I think he finds more chameleons than any of the rest of us put together. I'm very, very impressed, and I'm happy that you got to see one on bushwalk. In the meantime, Mfumo's taken us on, how shall we put this, a safari, a journey through some very dense vegetation, through one dried up river system, and over one stump that I'm hoping is not going to give us a flat tire. And he's done all of it silently, so never fear, you have not missed out on his magnificent roar. And I think he's hiding his head in shame that the only thing that you heard were those little contact calls. Look, he's embarrassed now. It's okay, Mfumo. You're just contact calling. A tack says that there are fresh tracks of another male going south along this road, and that must be what he's doing. He's following along behind one of his buddies. It's alright, you really don't have to hide your face away from us. It's okay. And Miles Bell, Lovely to have you. Thank you for sending through your question. You want to know if male lions seek out female lions, since females do most of the hunting. So when the male lions are hungry, do they go off in search of the females? Poor male lions actually have something of a rather undeserved reputation. And that's because if they are in the vicinity when the females kill something and are feeding off something, then they do barge in, and they do often take the lion's share of the meal. They will eat until they are complete. They'll take the best possible part of the kill, and that's sort of where their reputation comes from, for being relatively lazy and letting the females essentially do all the cooking. It's not the case though. Male lions are just as equally capable of hunting. They are slightly bigger, slightly bulkier, which means that there's a bit of a bias statistically, because generally speaking, it's another reason why there's this myth that male lions don't do any hunting. Generally speaking, there are more females. They're slightly sleeker and therefore have a slightly higher chance of success rate when it comes to hunting than the males do. However, the males have brute strength. The Birmingham boys have been known to pull down 4 or 5 buffalo at a time. One time I think Tristan described the Great Buffalo Massacre, and there were 8 different buffalo carcass kills, even before they took over this area as a territory. As far as I know, the first time they were seen on the live safaris was with Hayden and Peter, and they were in the process of catching and consuming large amounts of buffalo. So if he finds himself hungry now, he will go off and hunt for himself. Unless he happens to get a whiff that the females have got a large buffalo somewhere, in which case, yes, he might take a stroll over there and join them for dinner. But he plays a very important role in their lives. Yes, I'm talking about you, see? Flattering your ego a little bit. No, I'm kidding. He's just feeling a bit dozy now. And I've forgotten what I was talking about. That was a big sigh from Mfumo. Completely lost my train of thought. I was listening to something happening in my ear, and I completely lost what I was talking about. Sensor, what was I talking about? Oh yes, male lions joining females for dinner. Nat.Geo, you want to know therefore, well, why is he alone? Male lions often walk alone. He has a very, very important job. That's what I was talking about. He has a very important job to do, along with his 3 other coalition mates. They have got to patrol an enormous territory to roar and to scent mark and to essentially make sure that it is kept protected from other male lions, because if other male lions move in, they will kill the cubs of the Nkuhumas and the sticks that have been fathered most likely by the Birmingham boys. So they've got an enormously important job to do, and when you've got a territory that is, if I guess, 8,000 hectares, maybe larger, 10,000 hectares, a relatively large territory, as nice as it would be for all of them to wander around together for as long as possible, for a big male coalition with a big territory, it's very common to see them on their own. It's divide and conquer, essentially, utilizing their resources. So he'll be in one corner, another one will be in another corner of their territory, and they'll mark and they'll protect it in that way. And they'll come together as well. They'll rejoin, rebond, and I'm sorry, I'm just putting my jacket on, so I might accidentally flick it into the frame. No, I didn't. There we go. They might join up in the course of an evening and then separate again. They might hang out with each other for a little while and then move off their separate ways. Anthony, while we look at the size of his massive paws, just have a little think about how difficult this particular male lion would be to see if you were strolling along. He's basically placed himself right underneath a quarry bush. Now, Anthony would like to know if I've ever run into a lion on foot. Yes, many, 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 many times. 90% of those encounters have ended with the lion getting up and moving away from me, if I've taken them by surprise and if I've got a little bit too close before I've seen them. and a few of them have resulted in some growls and the odd lion charge. We used to, directly before I started working for Safari Live, there was a pair of lionesses that I worked with known as the Tembies. It was because they'd been introduced from the Tembe Reserve in Natal, and they'd been introduced into this area. And the Tembies were unpredictable, to say the least. They came in as just two. They've now actually created their own healthy pride. But the Tembies either would growl at you when you were 140 meters away, or they would stay silent and then come bursting out of the bush at 10 meters. Now, you never quite know if you were going to get a warning from them, or if you were just going to go bumbling in until they were right next to you. A lion charge is terrifying for people who experience it the first time. It's noisy, it's scary, and the most important thing to remember to do is not to run away. Because if you run away, you trigger their hunting instinct and you're going to be in serious, serious trouble. So the trick with a charging lion is to shout it down, intimidate it. Be large and intimidating, and during the day that will work absolutely fine. 99.9999% of the time. I have to tell you, I don't think Mfumo's going to get up to terribly much more. Let's head across to James so that he can keep you entertained.
I'm here on Cheetah Plains, and I have two birds to tell you about. One is the red-billed quillia, which I don't know if you were on drive yesterday with Brent, but he had a wonderful time with the murmurating flock of red-billed quillias. They're in that tree there. There, one of them you can see flying around there. And then if you listen very carefully... Oh, there they go. If you listen very carefully, you'll hear ding, 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 ding. You got that, everyone? Can you hear that? That's the call of the zitting cisticola. Julia, what a nice question. You say, what is the easiest bird call in the area to imitate? Well, again, it depends very much on whether you're tone deaf or not. For me, I find the call of the white-browed scrub robin or the call of the chin-spot batis probably the easiest. The former goes... The latter goes... And then the pearl-spotted owl is quite easy as well, which I'm not going to do the full pearl-spotted owl because I think you've probably all heard me do it before. For someone like Byron, the easiest bird call to imitate would be something like a European cuckoo, which is in fact silent in South Africa and doesn't make a noise here at all. That's also very true. Fergus makes a very good point there. I'm wrong. He says, do you think it would be easy for Byron to be silent? And that, of course, is a very good point. I think the most difficult ones would be... what would be a difficult one to make? Hornbills? No, hornbills are not too bad. Doves are quite hard. Anyway... Those would be my ones. And I, while we're driving around looking at not very much, trying to find something interesting, I'm always reminded when we talk about bird calls of the days, there's a squirrel. Let me just... There it is. Can you see it, Fergus? It's on that log there, looking a little bit... Oh... I am reminded of when I was the first was a young guide learning bird calls, and the way we did that, of course, was either from cassette tapes or from CDs. but it was in the days before it was possible to make one track for each bird call, and so you'd have 20 or so on each track, so you'd have to fast forward the tape or skip through the CD to get the one that you wanted. And there was a very famous sort of compendium of bird calls, I think it was by a chap called Guy Gibbon, who's done a lot of recording of natural sounds out here. And this compendium, I mean, if you wanted to find a bird call, you'd have to take about 4 days to find the thing. Eventually you'd get to it, and then it would be this dull recollection. So it would be 4, 3, 5, red-billed queelia, and then the bird call would come on. And my favourite was always the Swainston spurfowl, and I forget exactly what number it was, but it was something along the lines of 6, 4, 8, Swainston's spurfowl. And I always found that thoroughly amusing. Most people just stare at me blankly when I tell them that story. But you can't stare at me blankly because, well, you're just a bit remote to do that. Here we are at Buff Pan, which was built specifically to hold water, pumped water, and unfortunately during the very first rainstorm it burst its banks. Let's have a little look around here. There used to be a hippopotamus that lived in here. I wonder if there still is. He was very shy. Leadwood tree with many nests of the spotted-backed weaver, which unfortunately now has stopped weaving. The summer is over, and so the spotted-backed weaver has gone from his golden yellow plumage back to the drab brown of his winter life. And also a couple of nests there of the red-billed buffalo weaver. Now, White Lady Gyan, you would like to hear the call of the hardy-dar. Would you like me to play it on my bird app, or do you want me to do it myself? The hardy-dar is quite a good one. Brian, of course, was very good at bird calls, and you would like me to do it. Okay, here we go. Fergus, would you like to try the hardy-dar?
No.
You wouldn't? Okay, I'll do it then. Ha! 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 There you are. Nothing much going on here at Buff Pan. Rather the same as the rest of the drive at the moment. I'm afraid I'm struggling with comms here, but there's a question about the biggest bird of prey here and what it is. Well, the biggest eagle we get here is something called a martial eagle, but I suppose the biggest bird of prey would be a lappet-faced vulture. And then if you were particularly lucky, you might see a very large Cape vulture. So Cape vulture is in theory the largest raptor that we get here. We very seldom see Cape vultures. Lappet-faced vultures almost as infrequently seen. And then, of course, when it comes to the eagles, the biggest eagle is the martial eagle. And I will show you, or give you the dimensions shortly. Let me just quickly do that now, because I think we might lose signal. I don't think we have already. I hope we haven't. I'm just quickly going to give you the dimensions of those birds. Yes, come on. Clever phone. Here we go. Vulture. I always forget how tall they are. How long they are. Beautiful English. Right, the lappet-faced stands at 102 centimeters, so that's over 3 feet. That's about 3 foot 3 actually. 3 foot 3 for what bird is pretty big, and it's 6.5 kilograms. And then we get the Cape vulture, which is about the same height, but the big Cape vulture can apparently be larger than a leopard-faced, and they weigh, even though they're the same height, they weigh 8.5 kilograms. So that's a pretty large bird. Now Jamie, I believe, has left the lion, which I suspect is doing absolutely nothing, and she's found, well, a little sounder of things that are probably doing quite a lot.
They're doing quite a lot of snuffling, and I confess I didn't lose the lion. He just crawled even further underneath the guarri bush and went fast asleep. And our view was very, very tricky, so I decided that we'd leave him for now and come looking for what else we could find. And I'm glad that we did, as we found this lovely pair of warthogs. And yes, whilst it is true that their manes don't quite match that of Mfumo, I still find warthogs thoroughly entertaining. In this nice cool weather, they're enjoying the time to just snuffle about and get some breakfast. But they'd best be careful, because Mfumo is not too far away from here. They seem to be moving in the opposite direction to him. And as relaxed as Mfumo is, and unlikely as he is to go anywhere, there's still a chance that if they went wandering into him, he would go and chase and try and catch one. Now, all cats are opportunists, all predators are opportunists, and if the opportunity presents itself so neatly, they will absolutely go for it. The very first time I ever encountered or heard of the name the Birmingham Boys was when they were on a warthog kill. Before they'd even moved into this area, it was back when we were still living in the Manuleti and driving backwards and forwards each day. Look at this. Perfect identical faces. I hope you're getting, or you did get some amazing screenshots of that. That was so perfectly lined up. The two of them together. Young warthogs, you can see they've just started properly growing their tusks. And actually that makes those lower tusks, or tushes, even more threatening looking, because those are the really sharp ones. Careful, girl. You don't want to go in that direction. Is that a big tick on her head, or is it a piece of mud? Can't quite tell. I know Byron was talking about ticks earlier. Generally speaking, we don't see nearly as many ticks as I would expect to see on a warthog. I think their skin is really thick and quite difficult for ticks to get into. And all of that regular mud bathing also helps to keep them relatively parasite-free. They are actually very furry creatures, despite what you might, the impression that you might have. You can see she's absolutely covered, and having felt them before, that hair is almost like wire. It's so coarse. It's very, very thick and very springy. I think warthogs are quite attractive in their own way. At the moment, snuffling for roots and shoots and grass and leaves. And despite what the Lion King has taught many people, warthogs do not eat insects. They might occasionally eat an insect while they're snuffling around, but they are herbivores by definition, with the occasional side of carcass, which sounds very odd, but that's because most herbivores out here will in one way or another supplement their diet. Warthogs in particular, they are after all part of the pig family, but warthogs in particular, if they find a carcass, they'll nibble off it. And there was even one weird and unusual situation where a male warthog killed a baby impala, and then as far as I know ate a little bit of it, but that's an exception rather than a rule. Generally speaking, they are innocent herbivores, or herbivores anyway. And welcome to Wild Bill. You'd like to know, well, we just spoke about the fact that they are related to pigs. You want to know if warthog roast is a local meal. Warthog on a spit, absolutely. Probably roast warthog. I've never had roast warthog. But warthog on a spit is a very common meal out here. Particularly on reserves. Obviously it's very carefully done. But you can buy warthog meat in the same way that you can buy venison from most butchers wherever you happen to be in the world. So you can buy warthog meat. The last warthog meal, my one and only actually warthog meal I've ever had, was prepared for me beautifully by the chef on the reserve that I was working at in the Kalahari. And I was getting a treat from tasting warthog for the first time, and their pet caracal jumped up onto the table and stole it off my plate. And caracal is a medium-sized cat, and you'd think, well, I mean, it's a cat. Surely I could have just gone and got it back from her. No. She made very certain, as she looked at me and hissed at me, that I was in no doubt as to who had won that battle. And so it is actually that my experience with warthog has been relatively limited. Miss Muppet, the caracal. Our warthogs are busy enjoying their breakfast. Let's go and see which feathered creatures are enjoying theirs.
Hornbill has caught something, and I'm not going to tell you what it is. I want you to try and guess what it's eating. #SafariLive. Tell us what that warthog is eating. Warthog. That's not a warthog, is it? It's a hornbill. Yeah. But look at the thing that it's eating. Try and identify it. It's quite astounding. Isn't that amazing? I'm not even going to give you a clue. Now what it's doing is using that sharp beak to break up the hard bits. And I'm not even going to tell you what those hard bits are, because that might give it away. But obviously there are bits of that piece of prey that are too hard to digest. And so, because the hornbill is not blessed with teeth, hornbills' teeth are a bit like hen's teeth. They're difficult to find. And because they do not have teeth and they cannot chew, when that thing eventually does go down the hatch... Oh, he's dropped it. No, he hasn't. He's dropped a piece of it. Let's see if he picks it up. I'm sure he will. Has he found it again? Yes, he has. He's still got it. I'm not sure that's the whole of it, though. I think he's probably snapped a piece of it off. So when he eventually does swallow it, it's got to be soft. It's got to be soft enough for the digestive juices in his stomach, and I suppose for the stones in the gizzard, which are then able to sort of do a little bit of chewing. And the gizzard is a muscular sort of pre-stomach, if you like. It's got stones in it, and it kind of grinds away at the food, but it's got to grind away quite a lot there before the stomach juices will be able to get at it. And so he does the initial sort of breaking up of the hard stuff with his beak. Any ideas what it is? No, I only realized after watching it for some time. A few answers, here we go. Snake, lizard, moth, water monitor. Good grief. Water monitors is a stretch. A snake is what I thought it was to start with, but it's not a snake and it's not a lizard. And there we have the answer. Who gave us that answer? James, you said it was a stick insect. It is a stick insect. It's a giant stick insect. It's exactly what it is. And what he's doing, you go and fetch it quickly. What he's doing is breaking up the very hard chitinous exoskeleton. And once he's broken it up, he will then swallow it whole. But that process obviously takes quite a lot of time. See, from end to end. And it's a bit the same. I mean, I've seen lots of birds do catch things like that, and then they slap them on the branches. Especially fish, for example, kingfishers will slap fish on the branches, They'll also slap centipedes and that sort of thing if they catch them on the branches to break them up. And that is to break up the internal skeleton, but in this case it's to break up the exoskeleton of the giant stick insect. I think that's fantastic, and it just gives you an idea, though, of how little there is of actual food in that stick insect. It is largely the chitinous outer shell, which is completely inedible. Still won't swallow it. He's having a delicious breakfast. I don't think we'll have that for breakfast. I'm hoping that we'll get something else from Amanda, but who knows, maybe she's been collecting stick insects. It is Wednesday, of course, so we're at the end of the shopping week. There we go. Is it going down? No, he's still breaking it up. It always astounds me how long it takes them before they're prepared to swallow it. He's not trying to swallow it yet at all, is he? There, is it going? No, he's still just breaking it up. This is fantastic. This really is a very special sighting. It's almost like he's desperate to try and swallow it, but unfortunately for him, it's just too hard. I think it's well dead by this stage. Anyway, I think let's carry on. See what else we can find on Cheetah Plains. We've left the clearings because there's nothing in them. And we'll keep going along here and then meander our way back towards Djuma.
With Hippo is if they feel threatened, they prefer to stay in the deeper water. They move to the deeper water. Now this hippo has been in the center of this dam the whole time and hasn't moved. But we have come down to the water's edge. Every now and then it just sticks its head up. Here we go. Just keeping an eye on us. But this is really, really great. This is or if they feel aggressive, they'll start yawning, showing their around. Oh, sorry, I think our signal is a little bit dodgy. Let's head to Jamie quickly and we'll see if we can sort that out.
Apparently Byron has been freezing. I'm freezing too. Do you mind if I quickly put my jersey on underneath my jacket? Alright, so we've left our line, we've left our Warthogs, and I'm going to head on to Arathusa to find out what's happening here. I know that James said at the beginning of the drive that it was probably... it's going to be very busy. Sounds very busy from what I can hear. Let's go and find out if perhaps Shadow's around. Who knows? Oh, no updates. Okay. That answers my question. Well, we'll see. We'll see if we can find Shadow. I think we're going to go and check out Red Dam and around there and then move further to the south. I still haven't seen her cub. It looked as though James had the most amazing sighting with Shadow and her tiny little bundle of joy. I'm still dying to see it. I really would love to. I also haven't seen Shadow in a very long time either. So it'd be nice to catch up with her. I'll do this when I'm at Red Dam. I will survive. Wonderful news is that Byron is back up and running, and I'm sure you'd all like to see that hippo once again. Not Byron, an actual hippo.
So, sorry, I think because we're down at the water's edge, signal is a bit tricky, but it seems to be fine now. We are still sitting here very quietly, just watching this hippo in the water, and he really doesn't seem too fazed by us at all. Now, again, I wouldn't recommend you do this unless you have a qualified guide with you. Just always remember, you have to be respectful of nature, and you do need to know a bit about animal behavior. If you do bushwalks or walk close to any animals, you always have to be very cautious around water holes. Josh, a hippo can stay underwater for, if it really wanted to, about 7 to 8 minutes. About 7 or 8 minutes, but on average it's about 2 or 3 minutes that they stay under. So they can hold their breath for quite some time, which is amazing. And they usually do that if they're in big rivers, like, for example, the Zambezi, up between Zimbabwe and Zambia. The Zambezi River is very, very big, very wide, and those hippo move along those rivers, and there are plenty of hippo there. And if they cross the river in the deeper sections, they'll hold their breath, run on the bottom of the riverbed to get from one side to the other. So they can stay under, but what they'll do if they need to come up, they'll push themselves up, and they come to the surface, get a breath of air, go down again, and continue running. Mercedes, now I'm thinking, I think a hippo gestation period is about 14 months, I think. Nine months. I'm trying to think now. I don't have my mammal book with me, and I always get confused with some of these gestation periods. Actually, I think a hippo is less. It's like 9 months, somewhere around there. 243 days, is that? Yeah, there we go. So 9 months, somewhere around there, 8 months. That's a hippo gestation period. And then what they do is, speaking about the gestation period, if they do give birth, they give birth on land, somewhere close to the water. They'll give birth and then return to the water again, take the little calf down to the water. But they mate in the water. The hippo do mate in the water. It's again. So they'll mate in the water and then give birth on land. Now, white lady Eon, it is actually quite tricky to tell male and female hippo apart when they are in the water like this. Oh, let's see if it opens its mouth for us. Come on. That would be nice to see. So usually the male hippos, the heads are much larger. They've also got 2 very prominent bumps just behind the nostrils from where the big tusks actually fit into their mouth. Obviously the females have got big tusks too, but not as big as males. So those little protrusions, the size of the head, it's generally the best way to tell if it's a male or female, but it is difficult. And often males will be by themselves like this in little dams. Oh, look at these ducks are flying above us. There they go. Those are juvenile white-faced whistling ducks flying around. They're still very young, so they don't whistle. But they look very different to the adults. The adult white-faced ducks actually have black and white. So very different to that brown coloration of those little ducks. Mercedes, I've never seen a baby being born. I've actually, to be honest, I've never seen a birth in the wild before. literally been there just after it's happened with Wildebeest and Impala and that, but I've never seen a live birth. It's not big. Animals, when they give birth, they're very secretive. They'll hide away. They don't want to be caught out in the open, so they're very secretive when they do give birth. I think what we are going to do is leave this water hole now. Oh, let's see how he reacts to me standing up. I've been sitting down, but doesn't seem too phased. So while this hippo is still quite relaxed, we'll probably move off and start making our way back towards camp. The hippos they can move incredibly quickly underwater if they want to. So if he did decide to start running towards us, they can move at a rapid speed. But like I said, he looks comfortable. Can I help you up, Dave? You're on? He looks comfortable in the water there, so chances of him coming out are very, very slim. But they can move through the water and out the water very, very quickly if they wanted to. Okay, well, I'm going to move away from the dam. Let's head back to Jamie and find out how her morning's going.
I'm doing very well, thank you very much. I'm having a lovely morning bumble. I've just chatted to one of the guides who's been working around Arathusa this morning. He says, unfortunately, no updates to share with us. There's one Birmingham boy to the south on Hoffman's, which unfortunately is somewhere where we can't go, but I'm sure it's where our gentleman is slowly but surely making his way towards, and I think that's what he was listening to when we were with him earlier. No updates on Shadow. Last we heard she was somewhere around here. Now I'm going to check all of her favorite spots, and of course every time we bump into a guide, any guide who works around this area, we ask them if they've seen any signs of Karula. I'm afraid to say I have no news for you on that score, and no updates on Hosana or Shungile either. So that's pretty much what I've been busy doing. I've been busy catching up, figuring out where everything is, which is... oh, I didn't get the answer to that. I think we should go and check some of Shadow's favorite spots. Perhaps we get lucky. She might even still be on Djuma. I'm going to go and check that corner as well, where she likes to cross over. The one thing that I'm curious to know, or to see and observe, is with Karula not spending much time on Djuma, and that's sort of central part of her territory, obviously she's not calling and she's not scent marking. And I'm curious to see whether or not Shadow starts to push in a little bit. So Shadow is Karula's daughter, and as with most female leopards, she's taken up residence near her mother's territory, basically right next to it. They share a boundary. But Shadow's territory has been slowly but surely sort of eaten into by a large female called Salaheshe. And Salaheshe's female cub Tiani, who is basically at the point of dispersing. She's old enough now to disperse and to search for her own territory. And I'm interested to see whether there is a shift now in the leopard dynamics and how it's going to play out. Just for now, while Karula's away from Djuma, I want to see if perhaps Shadow moves a little bit further in towards us. Sure. Been some serious plant growth this year. Having to duck and dive. Now, which way am I going to go? Might go and check out the drainage line where she used to hang out with Sindile. You never know. We might just get lucky. And while we're trundling along, don't forget to send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter. Oh, there's an Impala making rutting sounds. Oh, there goes an Impala and he's gone. Okay. I'll try to find you another Impala to show you. Oh, since my antelope has disappeared, let's send you over to James, who's got one of the most beautiful.
I do indeed, everybody, and my bonce is in the way. Let me get out of the way. It is a kudu, but it's not very clear. I'm going to roll slowly forward and hope that we get a view of his magnificent face. He is a beautiful bull. Hello. Please don't go anywhere. We haven't seen anything today. Thank you. Isn't that a nice picture of him there, in amongst the bushes? Oh, don't go away. He is rather a fine fellow. What is he feeding on? I think it's combretum. Look how thick his neck is. I mean, that is a bull in his prime. And I suspect that there's probably been a little bit of competition and argy-bargy going on. It's a little bit late for them. Not late, but they wouldn't normally be breeding now. They would have finished their breeding season, the kudu. But clearly that big thick neck means that he's just come out of a fairly heavy time of probably conflict and fighting and heightened testosterone. Let me sneak forward again. You can't really see him there, can you? I'm just getting reports on the radio here, everyone, of a potential leopard sighting. Will you excuse me? Just keep looking at his horns there. Stations, James from Wild Earth here. Please confirm position of that sighting. I'm afraid the radios are too poor for us to hear, but I've got an idea where they are, so we're going to head that way. That's a lovely shot there, the horn sticking up over the bushes. It's very artistic. And what I did want to show you just before we move on from here is this plant. It is called the wild dacha. Dacha in South Africa is marijuana. And this apparently has a mild narcotic effect if you smoke the roots. I'm not sure otherwise why it's called wild dacha, because you don't smoke the leaves. Anyway, Leonotus leonurus, a very beautiful flower, and there used to be a bug or beetle on the plant. Has it gone? On the top. I think it might have gone away. I'm just looking here. Oh, there it is. There is a rather special little bug. Looks like a little shield bug. Can you see it at all, folk? There we go. Beautiful. Okay, we're going to move from here. I've got an idea as to where the sighting is supposed to be. Hang on. I can't really hear the radio, I'm afraid. So we'll go and see if we can't get into a sighting, and in the meantime, let's have one last look at the kudu, and then let's press on. Okay, we're going to carry on. I'm going to just try and figure out what's going on with this leopard sighting. Let's go across to Jamie and get an update from her. I'm not sure what she's doing. I'm sure it'll be interesting.
I'm so excited. James and I got the update pretty much at exactly the same time. Myself very far away, but James a little bit closer, so let's see if he can figure out what's happening with that leopard sighting. The reason I'm so excited is, from what I can hear and from what I understand, Shongile just killed a duiker, which actually sounds very bloodthirsty now that I put it that way, with a big grin on my face. I don't really mean it that in that sense, but I'm really thrilled for Shongile. It will do wonders for her confidence. It's going to do wonders for her nutrition levels to have something substantial like that as a meal. And the nice consume most of it before the evening falls and her risk of losing it increases. But I'm very, very happy. If James is in need of directions, I'm now talking to Alice rather than to all of you, although you can share in this. If James is in need of directions, I don't know if he has a map with him. I have just got some, so I can share those with him if he needs them, but only if he needs them. He might be more familiar with exactly where on Chitwa. Oh, he says yes please. Aha, he needs them. Okay, stand by James. Ask James if he has phone signal please. Sorry Alice, I can't do this over the Game Drive radio. We're too far away from each other. Tell him to put his phone on. I'll send it to him quickly. Everybody hold on. Brent says signal touch and go there, but he will try. Okay, come on. First road east of the Mulwanini. Cool. That's not how you spell James. James is spelled with a J, not with an H. Here we go. It's on its way. Directions are on their way. There we go. All sorted. Teamwork. Sorry, let me just double check these tracks. Hyena and civet, which in my mind, with my vivid imagination, made me think leopard and leopard cub. No such luck though, unfortunately. I think we should take a chance. I think we should go into that Tamboti thicket. Oh, and male lion. That must be the one that they found. I think we should go into the Tamboti thicket where Shadow likes to hide her cubs. And just see. Maybe we'll get lucky. She might have been lying there the whole time. While I go and take my chances there, let's hope that Byron's not taking any chances on foot.
No, Jamie, we never take chances on foot. Starting to warm up a little bit, just taking my top off. And we are walking around, heading towards, actually, this is quite nice. There's some beautiful hippo tracks here. Now this hippo, I think, is the one that we just saw in the dam. And you can see a very clear track. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 toes and the back part of the track. That's a very nice clear hippo track. Walking down towards the dam, that's why I say it's that hippo. It's a very clear track. So this hippo most likely, well, we know for a fact what they do is they move around at night and they'll go and feed. So that's what this hippo has done. Moved off, fed during the evening, and then returned back to the dam. And this looks like tracks from last night. Look quite fresh. Now we're walking around, just having a look. We did see some buffalo tracks, and we are approaching some water holes up ahead. So we're going to just be cautious while we are walking, and just double check that there aren't any buffalo lying in those mud wallows. Especially with it warming up now, it's starting to become quite muggy. A bit overcast, but it is definitely warming up. Whew. We've walked quite far this morning. It's been great. It's been a lovely walk. My last walk for a few days. I'm taking a break. Well, they fired me again for a week, and then I'm coming back on the 26th. So I'll be back again on the 26th. So just going for a bit of a break. Leaving James to sing by himself. He's going to be very sad. He misses it when I don't sing with him. You can ask him, he'll definitely admit it. Let's see, there's that waterhole up ahead. Just stop here quick, Davey. See, this waterhole is down, bit of a dip over there. It doesn't look like anything is in there at the moment. Just getting a glimpse of little birds flying past. It's always difficult to show you birds on bushwalk because they don't often sit very long. They tend to fly off. We try our best, but they look like some doves that just flew past. So I was just double checking, make sure. But it was nice to see those white-faced whistling ducks at the dam. Those juvenile white-faced whistling ducks, brown in coloration. Again, just keeping a good look out for any animals potentially coming down to the water to drink. There's a lot of water around here. There's a lot of water around everywhere at the moment, so the animals don't necessarily have to go to those big dams, like that big dam that we just saw. They're able to go and drink just about anywhere. They're lovely little pools, and you'll see this wallow over here, or this little, I suppose you could call it a little water hole. Let's come have a look. It's there we go, there's old buffalo dung. See that? See, some animals, termites have actually buried up through here, through the dung. It's interesting, there's a little ant on there too. A lot of little bugs, and that will feed on this dung. Oh. Second time I hit my head on the aerial. Thanks, Dave. It's all good. I'm awake now, though. Oh dear. Anyway. So, there's some hoddiedars. Look here, there we go. Some hoddiedars just at the water's edge. Possibly looking for little insects around the water. That's what they'll feed on, little worms perhaps in the mud. Hoddiedars do enjoy worms. Now, tip of the day before I leave. Oh, what can my tip of the day be? I'll think about it. Let me think about it a little bit, and then I'll give you a tip of the day just before we finish. It's very peaceful, very nice sighting to just see birds at the water's edge. And as I was saying earlier, these little waterholes all over now because of the rains that we had recently. There's a lot of little bits of water, so the animals are able to get water just about anywhere. They don't necessarily just have to go to the big dams, which is great. So it's very beneficial for all these animals, and I'm hoping this water will remain around for quite some time. And oh, listen. Oh, there's a pearl-spotted owl which was just calling. Where is it? Now, I don't think it would be very easy to spot it. They are well camouflaged. Where is he? That was actually come. You know what we're going to try to do? Let's see if I can call him a bit closer. If this works, James is going to eat his words about me being tone deaf. Let's see. Because they are quite territorial, they'll sometimes respond and come sit a bit closer. So let's see if it works. I'd love to find this little owl for you. Beautiful pearl-spotted owl. Let's just see. I can't see. I'm trying to look in that dead tree. Perhaps sitting in there somewhere. Try call once more. Nothing. Yeah. Such a pity. I was hoping it would call again. Nothing. That sometimes happens. We tried though. V, you asked how is a termite mound made? Well, V, it's basically just made from termites burrowing down underground. They take out, obviously, well, they excavate soil. They mix it with their saliva and their feces, and they compact all of that together, and that then they use to build those termite mounds. And some termite mounds are really, really large. I'll see if I can see one in the immediate vicinity, but I can't. But amazingly big termite mounds that they can build, and it's feces, saliva and soil that they mix together to get this substance which they then build the mound out of. Alright, well, let's head back to Jamie, see what her plan is for the last 20 minutes or so of drive.
Hopefully not for the entire 20 minutes. Otherwise, I think my droning on will become very, very monotonous. No sign of shadow, unfortunately. I know that the instructions, the directions that we've been given suggest that wherever Shongile is, she is in a very, very tricky signal patch in the Mulwanini. Ooh. Chattering happening. So, oh, whoops. Oh dear. Alright, let's have a look at the view over there. I'm just going to squeeze past the people's drink stop. They're having their early morning coffee. Let me go and apologize for disturbing them. Don't feel like going all the way around, unfortunately, so I'm just going to beg forgiveness. Sorry, guys. Didn't mean to disturb your coffee stop. Sorry.
I think we've disturbed you enough anyway.
No, not at all.
You probably have the best job in the world, right?
Someone's got to do it. It's tough. Cool. Thanks very much. I must carry on. Enjoy your stay. Bye. It always gets a laugh. At some point, whenever, almost always actually, you can ask James and Byron this as well, if you pass guests, they will either say something along the lines of, oh, you have a tough job, or it will be, you must have the best job in the world. We do have the best job in the world. Can't argue with that. They are just enjoying their morning coffee. Should have asked for some. Senzo, we missed an opportunity there. The snacks are always the best as well. We probably could have got a muffin if we played our cards right. I once got juice boxes. That was very exciting. It was like being a child again. Drat. Should have asked for a cup of coffee. Might have been pushing it a little bit. What to do? No sign of Shadow anywhere around here. I don't know where she's disappeared off to, but Shadow does work in mysterious ways. Should try the hyena den. I assume it wasn't active when James went there this morning. And there's still other people looking at that male lion, so we can't go back to him yet. But we can go and have a look at the hyena den. It's a bit late in the morning, but it has been chilly this morning, which will work in our favour. There's a chance that Ribbon might have decided to come through a bit later to feed her cubs. I started off my morning actually checking... Oh, shame. How sweet is that? Let me stop here, otherwise it's going to stop doing it. It's a little zebra foal suckling. I just bumped into a guide from the west who said he's desperate to see zebra, and can I please let him know if I see any. Unfortunately, he can't drive here. Each and every lodge has their own traverse agreement, and now we've got a suckling zebra foal. That's gorgeous. If I go any closer, Mum's going to move away from us, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to disturb them. What a beautiful opportunity for screenshots in this glorious light. Hello, little one. Is this the McCurdy herdie? We're close to quarantine. Could be. My favourite thing about baby zebras is how fluffy they are. So much fluffier than the adults. And they've got that ridge that runs all the way down their backs. Breakfast. Look at your giant ears. Zebra have got to be probably one of the most photogenic animals out here. They're so gorgeous. And they say that one of the first things that a zebra foal imprints on, I'm not sure how they tested it, but I assume they did somehow. They say that one of the first things that a zebra foal memorizes or imprints on is mom's shoulder stripes, because it's perfect eye height. And of course each and every single zebra's stripes are unique. However, I have also seen a zebra foal get lost and follow a wildebeest, calling at it, so I'm not quite sure exactly how true that is. Ears going back, listening to the other zebra moving behind her. Reading zebra's body language is very similar to reading that of a horse. Very, very similar. So for those of you that ride, it's an easy way to interpret behavior. She is a little irritated at the proximity. Irritated or anxious at the proximity of this other female and foal. Zebra females are, should we call them temperamental? Oh, this is lovely. We've got a mother and two foals. Gorgeous. Someone else is having breakfast too. But zebra females are not afraid to show their true feelings, and they nip and they bite each other. And if a foal gets even slightly confused and goes to suckle from the wrong female, it is going to find itself on the receiving end of one very nasty either kick or bite. They're not friendly creatures, and they bite hard. I know because I've been bitten by one. It was very, very uncomfortable. It's like being bitten by a horse, just worse. Oh, that's gorgeous. I have to say, this colour scheme of the bush at the moment is stunning. Alrighty. Well, we move on from our stripy horses. Let's go and find out how James's end of sunrise safari is treating him.
Now, I'm afraid to say that, well, there are one very positive thing to say, one negative thing to say. The positive far outweighs the negative. The negative is that we cannot get into the leopard sighting because there is no signal. The positive is that the sighting is of Shongile, and Shongile has killed a duiker. So she has made her first, well, we don't know, but what seems to be her first solo proper kill. No more will she be forced to eat terrapins and foul-tasting bits and pieces of detritus in the bottom of pans. Now it is prime cut duiker for her. So she's got a nice meal just off Chitwa. Hopefully it won't be stolen. Hopefully she will be able to pull it up into a tree and enjoy it until it is finished. Now I did take some video of her because we could see her, but obviously we couldn't get any signal. But I didn't get her with the duiker. I couldn't actually see the duiker, so I'm afraid I'm not going to bother to show it to you. There's some chap who's in a hurry for breakfast. Can't blame him. I'm getting quite peckish myself. Now, when we came through this area earlier today, there was an alarm calling Franklin, and I wonder if it wasn't little Shongile actually on the hunt as we came through. Anyway, that's the story with Shongile. So that's great. News of her brother and his hopeful dispatching of equally large prey. He of course has killed before. I think he killed a baby impala, so it's not like he doesn't know how to do it anyway. But let's hope that they both manage to get themselves some good fare over the coming weeks. We may or may not lose signal here. I'm going to go through this dip very quickly. No, we are losing it. Let's head across to Byron and find out how the last of his walk is going.
Well, the walk is just getting rather warm at the moment, but it's still very, very lovely out here. And again, just more sign, clear sign of fresh hippo tracks, or hippo sign rather. And this is dung. All this splattered grass over these trees, it's hippo dung. And they do that to mark their territory. So what the hippo will do is he will reverse himself into the bush, like this. And their tail flicks from side to side. So as they're dropping their dung, it sprays the dung all over the tree and the ground to mark bit of their territory. It's scent marking, basically, to let other hippo know that this is his area. So hippos do that. They do it in the water too sometimes. You'll see their tails flick and you'll see dung flying all over the show. But this is... And this looks very fresh from last night, definitely. Now I'm still thinking of a tip of the day, and I suppose it needs to be a bushwalk tip of the day. Bushwalk tip of the day. Let me think. It's always tricky. Sometimes I forget what I've said or haven't said. Now, Priscilla, good question. You wanted to know if the hippos really do kill more people than any other animal in Africa, in South Africa or in Africa. So, Priscilla, yes, they kill a lot of people. So there's a theory, or an argument rather, between two animals, and both of them live in the water. The one is, of course, the crocodile, and the other one is the hippo. Now, the reason for that is in most parts of Africa, people generally live close to rivers, close to waterholes, because they use the water, obviously, for bathing, for washing, for water. So, fishing, some locals will obviously go fishing for food. So, people tend to congregate close to water. Problem is, in rural areas and in areas close to game reserves or where these animals do occur, if they get too close to the water, the crocodiles, for example, will try and hunt them. Crocodiles do actively hunt people if they get into the water. And then, of course, the hippos purely do it if they feel threatened. So if the people are walking around close to water and the hippo hear them, if they're out the water, they'll run back for safety and people get in the way and they'll bite down and kill them. So they don't kill them for food or to eat them, but purely because they feel threatened. But it is a theory or an argument between the two, hippo or crocodile, because the one thing is the crocodile eat the people, so you don't often find the remains. Another thing is the hippo, well, you will find dead bodies. But that's the main reason, is purely because those animals feel threatened. So it's not a case to say that the hippo will actively go out and try and kill people. But you do have to be careful of hippo around the water. And especially out the water if you bump into them. And that will happen more likely in winter, because winter, with it being so much cooler, they do go off and they'll lie in the sun somewhere, basking on a bank or even in the bush. They'll lie down and warm up during the day and return to the water a little bit later. So you do have to be careful when you are walking around in winter. Phew, getting quite warm, eh, Dave? So, Mary Kay, no, their skin doesn't dry out. The hippo have got, they secrete an oil-like substance. It almost looks like blood. It's like a reddish coloration. They secrete this oil. It covers their body. It helps protect their skin, especially in the heat of the day when they are out the water, if they are exposed. But also it gives them a bit of just a protective layer. So even when they're in the water, their skin doesn't dry out or anything like that. Now, tip of the day, I think, well, a few little tips actually. When you are walking around, you may have seen some of the guides use these gaiters, those things that go around your ankles that protect your ankles from ski. Dave's got them. Dave's clever. Be like Dave and get gaiters. I don't have, unfortunately. I'm going to try and get some soon. So what happens is I get socks and socks. I get seeds and that's stuck in my socks, and it becomes very, very itchy, and it's not very pleasant. Anyway, I'll think of a better tip of the day though, but that is just a tip that you could use. Let's head to James and see what he has been up to and ask him how much he's going to miss me while I am away.
We have found an animal. Can you believe it? Two species of animal, everybody. A Wildebeest and an Impala. Let me just move slightly. Make it a bit easier for Ferg. Is that a little bit easier, Fergus? I'll probably hit something now and frighten them all away. So a Wildebeest bull, possibly at the end of the mating season again, now making some friends with some Impala. Well, he must be friends with the Impala. They are often the only things standing between him and certain death. They are his alarm system. They are also sacrificial in that they are smaller and less intimidating than him, and so are much more likely to be eaten by something than he is if he hangs around them. It's quite clever, really. So if you ever find yourself in the wilderness, make sure you hang around with people or children who are smaller than you are. Claire, you're wondering if male impala get injured frequently in the rutting season. I would say less than one would expect. Yes, you do see them with missing eyes from time to time. Their horns break off from time to time. I think you'll find that the major injuries are actually caused by predators who hunt them when they are not concentrating on looking around for predators. So, yes, they do injure each other. Sometimes they will impale each other to the extent that death will ensue, but it's much less frequent than you'd imagine. I also think, they probably get concussed quite badly. They probably walk around with a dazed headache for a while, and so although there are not very obvious external injuries, I suspect there must be internal brain injuries to a certain extent. It cannot be that they smash their heads against each other like that and have absolutely no effect on the brain rattling around in the brain case. Although, as we all know, Impala's brain is not very large. I nearly said that a banana's brain is not very large. Well, a banana doesn't have a brain, of course, but an Impala has a very small brain. And those two youngsters are not really into fighting just yet. They will be this time next year. North American Track, you've asked a very interesting question about what animals out here the local people are allowed to catch and which animals they sell at the local markets for food. North American Tracker, this is a game reserve, which means that the local people are not allowed onto the reserve to hunt. It is a hunting-free zone. And meat that is eaten outside in the sort of rural areas is generally beef or goat. And that does get sold from time to time at local markets. But it's funny, it's interesting that you should ask that question. Local markets out here tend to be small shops that sell all sort of packaged goods. There's very little in the way of a local produce market out here, unless you're trying to get hold of perhaps the odd bucket of tomatoes or some spinach or chickens and eggs. Those get sold out here quite a lot in informal markets, but otherwise it tends to be that people travel to local centres and try and find recognised shopping brands. And I think it's a great travesty, it's a great sadness that in an area like ours, which could support a huge number of, for example, slightly domesticated wildlife, for example, you could keep impala outside the fences of the reserve. It would be a very good supply of meat for local people. But that doesn't happen, and so we have huge numbers of emaciated cattle which are not ideally suited to the conditions out here, and people generally don't grow a huge amount of produce to sell at local markets, so it doesn't work like it does in many other parts of the world, which is quite interesting. I'm not really sure why. Hello, Mohammed. You say, what are the black markings on the back of the impala? It depends entirely on which ones you mean. There are, let's just go across the one on the right there, Ferg. There are two sets of black markings. The first ones I described earlier, the ones behind the tail, and they are supposed to attract ticks, which in turn are supposed to allow the tail to sort of flick the ticks away. I don't buy that theory at all. And then the other ones, of course, down below that are the fetlock glands, and those fetlock glands produce a hormone that is a hormone, it's an airborne hormone called a pheromone that is kicked out into the air when they run away from each other or from predators, and apparently they are able to pick up on that pheromone, and they can chase each other through the bush by smell. And so they can follow each other through the bush using the pheromones. Alright everyone, that's going to be it from us for the drive. Thank you very much for coming along. I must just reiterate, I am not going to Kenya until the 31st of May. Brent is now out. Next time you see him, he will be in Kenya. Jamie's still here for a while. Scott, of course, well, he lives in Kenya, doesn't he? Thank you very much for coming along on our drive today. Thank you, Fergus, for your efforts. We will see you later today at 4 o'clock this afternoon. No, we won't. It'll be at 3:30 this afternoon. Bye-bye.